Was that enlightening?
Yes.
How many people saw this for the first time tonight? Was anybody really doubtful about this issue before they came in here tonight? Usually, well, you can admit it. How many people were doubtful the first time that they heard this and very skeptical? I was as well. And you know, when you think about this issue and somebody tells you airplanes are putting chemicals into the sky, it really sounds kind of crazy, right? And it's something that most of us probably don't want to believe. And if it's happening, we don't really want to know that it's happening because it just seems so large. And hopefully after tonight, after our discussion, we'll talk about some of the areas where we're at in terms of the legislation and what we can do to stop it. Because right now we just had a failed legislative attempt to legalize geoengineering for experimental programs. Even though there's no question that they're doing this. Geoengineers are moving very quickly and they're using this global warming CO2 or climate change issue to form global governance. And the quickest and most cost-effective thing that scientists and geoengineers are saying to address, quote unquote, this supposed issue of climate change would be to initiate geoengineering programs. So right now we're at critical mass. I think we just hit critical mass, which is very good news, but on the other hand, scientists are moving very quickly legislatively. And again, there was a failed attempt over the summer. It was called the Berlin Declaration, where they tried to establish legislation. They're going in for another attempt, and this is one thing that I really want to talk to you about tonight, and that is there's a climate meeting in France, and that's in December, and what they're doing is trying to establish a climate treaty. And in that climate treaty, what it will do, if we allow it to happen, it will circumvent the Constitution, and it will create global governance, and we will have a body, a government body, which will initiate laws which will have profound effects on our life. And they will be initiated not by any elected United States official. It will be foreign entities dictating the very ways that we live our life, all based on this notion that CO2 creates climate change. After tonight's film, I hope you realize that a big part of the changing climate that we have, no question about it, are the aerosols in our sky. That is not debatable. Those are the words that geoengineers are saying. So the climate models that we have that are stating that the planets, whether it's cooling or warming, they're flawed. At best, fraudulent at most. And the reason they are is because geoengineering is not being included in that model. So we would hate to see, well actually there were just 500 climate laws that were initiated that are scheduled to go into effect this year in 2015. They're UN-based climate laws, and they're going into effect here in California, many of them. This is the starting ground for them. And they're based on an unproven fact, and I'm not going to debate whether global warming is happening or not. What I will tell you is conclusive. We cannot even come up with a planetary temperature with the ongoing aerosol programs. So I want to talk a little bit about that, but I want to hear from you. So hopefully there were some questions I could share with you what I've learned. I still have a lot more to learn, but I'll share with you what I've known, and hopefully we can come out with some type of plan to move forward here locally in Tiburon and the areas around here to move forward in stopping these programs. I know I had some water back there, and I'm kind of getting a dry mouth. Thank you. And I want to thank Frank and everybody else who is very instrumental at putting this together. Thank you very much. I think you had your hand up first.
Okay, I have a question. What we're watching in this area is the developers are calling the San Jose West, and they're starting to do pipeline interties between different water agencies. They're really pushing development. Now they're telling us we don't have water for the future, but meanwhile our legislators have written legislation so that we can no longer use water as a reason for not developing. So my figure is that they're looking at total water control in different ways. One is through desal and taking our private water, but I'm wondering if you have any thoughts beyond that.
I have more than a few thoughts. I mean,
Yeah.
actually, we're gonna include this in my next film, An Unconventional Shade of Gray. So I'm really gonna look at California and how the water issue is related. As we discuss in the film, geoengineers don't debate this. Geoengineering creates droughts. no question about it. What we see right now, we have this polar vortex, and it's off the Pacific, and a lot of meteorologists are scratching their head going, oh my God, this almost looks artificial. We've never seen anything like this. What they're doing is creating high pressure off of the Pacific, and the jet stream that should be coming in right here in Northern California is being diverted up. Okay, it's doing a couple of things. If you've looked at this winter, I've been stuck in Chicago. It's been, I'm like these geoengineers. It's been miserable because what it's doing is bringing the jet stream up into the north. We have temperatures in Anchorage in the 40s, in the 50s, but the natural rebound of the jet stream has to come back down. So it's going right into the Midwest, bringing the Arctic weather into that region. I was on a radio show a couple weeks ago. They had 0 degrees in North Carolina, 47 degrees in Anchorage. That, again, is because they're bringing the jet stream up. Why are they doing it? Well, we look at the region in the Arctic. No question about it. Geoengineering has the ability through jet stream manipulation to warm certain areas. And it appears that some of that ice is coming back. And we spoke about this climate meeting that's possibly going to form this global climate treaty. If that ice comes back, I think it's going to be very hard to sell the issue of global warming. So I believe, and this is speculation again, but I believe that is one, perhaps, of the agendas that they're doing that. There's no question the jet stream is being manipulated up there and changing our temperatures. But if we look at California as a region, water is a commodity that the corporate interest, or should I say the quote-unquote elite, have had an interest into. We have a company called Bechtel. Bechtel's job, they do a lot of things, they're a military contractor, but they own 82% of the privatized water. So if you have a drought in a certain region, it's very effective to sell to people, hey, we have to privatize, we have to take control of this water. So we have, through public-private partnerships, we have the corporatization of natural water systems. On a deeper level, if you look at the Central Valley here in California, the San Juan Key Valley, I think I said it correctly, produced 50% of the nation's fruits and vegetables. We have drought conditions, now we have farmers drying up. I've been talking to farmer groups, so I'm going to be interviewing them and seeing what's going on. But we do know that there's a lot of farms that are going under, especially natural organic farms. And what that does, it creates the U.S. interdependence with countries around the world. So it creates an interdependence with our food supply. That can relate to a need for global governance and a need for global bodies. So there's a lot of geopolitical interests that geoengineering can bring to fruition. So I believe it's about water rights and possibly our food supply and corporatizing our food supply, because they're taking out the small guys. The big corporate farms are also coming into that area. So geoengineering is not about protecting the planet, but it is a very effective way to consolidate an enormous amount of both monetary and political power into the hands of a few, really at the expense of everything, including our future. Yes?
What is the French potential treaty have, how does that relate to the TPP, do you know?
I'm not sure if it relates to the TPP, which appears to be a regional trans-partnership, which is an intermediary step towards global governance. So what they're doing is circumventing our Constitution and moving forward. So if you can create conditions and sell people that, oh my God, look at this adverse weather conditions. Look at the warming that's occurred up in the Arctic. Well, I just wrote an article called Geoengineering and the Deliberate Melting of the Arctic. No question about it, geoengineers have been melting the ice up there. It was interesting because if you look back in the 70s, there was this scientist named Stephen Schneider. He was a presidential advisor, everybody from Nixon all the way to Obama. He died one of those mysterious deaths after the issue of ClimateGate. A lot of emails got leaked. Anyways, back in the 70s, he said, oh my God, we have a coming ice age. We have to look at ways to melt the Arctic. So we looked at a couple of ways, and I'm going really quick. You can also read the article. But they spoke about spraying black soot into the Arctic, and the idea was putting black soot onto the ice. It would absorb more sun and thus melt the ice. Well, we have documentation that proves that they have sprayed black soot for the purpose of geoengineering. If you look at pictures, there are certain areas in that region where for hundreds of miles, it's pitch black on the ice. So that's one way that he spoke although he denied doing it, we have documentation that shows he did, of melting the Arctic. Another thing he said, because we have this coming ice age, we need to save the planet, perhaps we could detonate nuclear bombs in the region. Of course, those have intense heat. So we look, in history, Russia had detonated over 123 nuclear bombs in that region. Some of it, they said, was for mapping, none of it for geoengineering. Then there's an idea, we have two major ozone holes over both of our poles. Geoengineering creates ozone destruction, but Stephen Schneider proposed spraying chlorine up in that region to destroy the ozone. Of course, the sun gets hotter. Many people notice now you'll burn much quicker. Okay, that's a result of our diminishing ozone. So it appears that they've done that, but now we also look at the jet stream manipulation. No question about it, those of us who are aware of this, even meteorologists, the jet stream is being manipulated. Looks like it's warming that region. Why would they want to do this? Well, it turns out 13% of the world's undiscovered oil is in that region. After the ice started melting, guess who went up there? Shell oil started going up there, pumping up some of the oil. Now we have Russia, we have Japan, we have the United States and Canada. All of their militaries are in that region. It appears that we're in a Cold War situation up there, jockeying for the region's superpower. Why would they want to do that? Not only because of the resources, but those are very valuable shipping lanes. So they've opened up those shipping lanes since some of the ice started melting. It appears to be coming back. But what's interesting, so this guy Schneider, back in the 70s, alarming that we're going to ice over and we have to melt the Arctic. Well, it started melting. Where did they go? We have global warming. So we have to look at carbon taxes. We have to look at forming, again, global governance, which is a huge shift in monetary and political power. And what we're looking at, if we allow the global warming legislation to go through, based on this idea that CO2 creates global warming, I don't know if it does or doesn't. What I can say conclusively, there is no way that we can get an accurate temperature reading until the geoengineering programs are stopped. Then we can go back to the discussion. But it concerns me if we look at some of the things that they're trying to do in a potential transfer of trillions of dollars of wealth, monitoring you in your homes. Al Gore just submitted a $90 trillion proposal to redesign every major city. Why? He wants to eliminate our need to drive vehicles so that we would all be on public transportation. So basically, I'm covering these issues in the film, not debating which side of global warming is accurate or not, but we have to slow down. And based on the fact that there is no proven, there's theory, but there's no proof that CO2 creates global warming. So to initiate laws that would dramatically affect our lives based on something that's unproven and circumvent our Constitution in the laws of our land, we really need to take a second look at this. And the fact that geoengineering, again, is the quickest, most cost-effective thing. And believe me, this is on the table. It's being looked at very seriously, and it will be legalized if they get this global climate treaty. So I think it's very important. There was...
The library closed at 9, I just found out.
We closed at 9? Yeah. We can go outside if anybody wants to talk. Please pick up a DVD or a t-shirt. That helps fund my work, and we also encourage everybody to make copies and hand out for free.
Just one quick question, Michael.
Yes.
You were just talking, and are you going to actually talk about Agenda 21 in the next movie, because those are all Agenda 21 issues?
Absolutely.
Or the post-2015 agenda, as they like to call it? Thank you. I look forward to that.
That's what it's about.
Good.